The question was, what are some examples of hard assets and how do you transact in them? Well, okay, so I'll try and keep this really simple. Easy for you guys to understand, for anybody to understand this. We all understand what gold is, right? Gold is a mineral on the periodic table. It's an element. Okay, it's a base element. You can't counterfeit it. You either have it or you don't. It either weighs or it doesn't. It's either pure or it's not. That's it. That's an example of a hard asset, meaning that it is not subject to opinion. So I talked about this a while back, but for new folks, let me explain. Why were diamonds never really used as like really solid currency? I mean, you could use them as a currency, but why weren't they really? Because of the subjective value of diamond, meaning that you may look at it and see a VVS1 quality stone. I may look at it and see a VVS2 quality stone. We have a discrepancy now. What we don't have a discrepancy is in the example of gold is it's again, it either weighs or it doesn't. We either agree that our scale is weighing it out in whatever unit of measurement we're choosing, whether it's grams or ounces, whatever. Okay, so it weighs, and it's either pure or it's not. In other words, it's either pure gold or there's an impurity in it. If there's an impurity in it, that's a variable. So let's assume that it's been smelted down, right? And so it's like a little block or a bar or an ingot of gold or a coin or something like that. So, and then it's also not subjective in that you either have it or you do not. That's it. So what this means is that this takes the guesswork out of a currency, because you're looking at it, we can both see it, we both see that it weighs this much, and we both see that it's pure content. Great, right? So we no longer have to argue about the coin itself or the ingot or the little pile of dust. We no longer have to argue about that. We can argue about the subjective value of whatever it is that you and I want to transact for. You want to buy my car, for example, or I want to buy your car, and we can argue about the price of the car, but we're not arguing about the unit of measurement and the currency itself. We're not arguing about that. This is such a tough thing to really explain. Some people pick it up just instantly. Others, it takes a little while for them to really grasp this, because it's not taught. Like, this idea isn't taught to young people. It's deliberately not taught to people. It's deliberately not taught. And because if you're a banker, you're trying to rip everybody off, the last thing you want is people knowing this shit, right? That's the last thing you want them to know, is any of this, because then they can't rip you off anymore, right? They can't. There's nothing to argue about. It's either pure or it's not. You either weighs or it doesn't. You either have it or you don't. Okay? So now that we've established that, that's an example of a hard currency. How do you transact in it? At that point, it's you willing buyer, willing seller, right? Now this is a problem, because remember, dollars, people still think in dollars. I don't like it, but people still do think in dollars. They think in terms, because dollar's a slave currency. It was created to create a bunch of slaves. That's why the dollar exists. That's why Lincoln had to win the war against the South. Sorry, Ann Coulter, you're completely wrong about this. The North had to win because their currency would have become worthless. They would have had to first buy Confederate dollars in order to import stuff out of the South. That's why they had to conquer the South. They didn't have a choice. It was either that or the bankers would have, probably, who knows what they would have done to try and to punish the North, the so-called North, on this, okay? But that's reality, okay? So when you understand how the currency aspect works and you start looking at utility value, right? This is when you start getting, like, you hear the term based, right? This is where you really get based, okay? And it means, like, are you going to do anything with this? What does it have value to you? So how do you transact in it? You transact in it peer to peer. Okay, that's how you transact. And I realize this sounds elementary, but it's like, this is a difficult thing, because a lot of you have never transacted peer to peer. Did you know that? You go into a store, you go into a $6, Starbucks. You or whatever the hell they're calling themselves. Anyway, you go in there, right? What do most young people do? Vast majority of you, what do? Yeah, I'll have a tall boy frappuccino, with extra whipped cream. That's what you order, and then you pay for it, and you think that you're doing a one peer-to-peer transaction. You're not. Most of you are putting your card in the thing. You've added a third party the instant you did that. You added a third party. Actually, you added in some cases a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, 10th fucking party in between you and that transaction. Now it's small percentages. It's tiny amounts of money, but you added a whole bunch of people in there, and people get used to doing lots and lots and lots of transactions, so it equals a lot of money. Because I mean, think about it. What if you made a penny, one penny for every transaction that $6 did over the course of a year? You'd be fairly wealthy, right? Because they do lots and lots of transactions. This is how these third, fourth, fifth, and sixth and seventh parties look at it. That's why. So, and let me qualify this. You put the card in there. You have the card. The card issuer is making money off of it, plus all of the people that are in the banking sector that are part of that card. Then you've got the credit card processing company and all of the people associated with that. And then you've got the salespeople, and then you've got on and on. I mean, all these people that are stacked in there, right? And then you have all of the accountants that are necessary to keep track of all that shit that wouldn't be necessary in an actual true peer-to-peer transaction. Let's contrast that. You go into Bob's coffee shop and you see Bob, right? The owner who's standing there making really cool coffee. And you are transacting, let's say, in some kind of a hard currency, I don't know, a silver dime, let's say. We'll just call it that. Okay? I'm not telling you this is. I'm just saying. Let's just use that as an example. That transaction is now truly peer-to-peer. It's between you, the buyer, who is going to consume said coffee, and or for your friends or whatever. Okay, and Bob, who made your cup of coffee, and he's going to take that transaction, put it in his pocket, right? Take the silver dime, put it in his pocket. You just eliminated a whole bunch of middlemen. And in so doing, you can bring your costs way down. Now, but the government, fuck the government. Even those same people that are doing all this shit right now, this is where I keep telling them, and you guys are gonna have to realize that you're going to embrace organized crime at some point. You better starting to learn it now and stuff. Go back and watch all those gangster movies, by the way. No goddamn full-length chinchilla coats and shit like that. And no loudmouth, stupid fucking women or that fuck up your shit. Don't avoid some of the trophy women out there, because they're more problems than they're worth, right? So don't bring about unnecessary attention, right? I mean, what's that? What was that? The name of the Nicky Sotoro or something like that? I don't remember what the name of the Joe Pesci character in Casino, but that was an actual guy that was based on, and the guy was a menace. Don't be that guy, right? Low profile. Understand the idea of low profile, and just kind of anyway. Point is that this is the way you think about it in terms of your transactions. So transacting is very easy to do. It's very hard to get rid of all the people in the middle of the transaction. But once you learn how to do that, you find that then you find that your valuations are going to change quickly. And it also means that you have to deal with somebody eyeball to eyeball. That means your values change as well. So not just your valuations, but your values themselves change. Because now maybe you start to think hey, I would like Bob's Coffee to stay in business, right? Because he's part of your community, and his kids play with your kids and so on. You start thinking about these kinds of things. That's really the essence of it. And it's hard to get that through when you're talking to millions of people, right? It's hard to do that. It's easy to talk to 175, 200 people. That's easy. When you're talking to millions of people, it's tough, because that's people we start to think about in terms of this huge complex economy, as opposed to thinking about it on the on a small level. But there it is. There's a balance there, and I think that by doing something like that and just thinking about it in those terms, that'll help you out a whole bunch.